And what we mean by formal hand training is actual structured work with a young dog. And it starts in the kennel or the crate of the home. What we're looking for is dogs coming out under control. So I don't allow what's called kennel busting. So you can see here he's going to sit and wait patiently for me to come up, put this lead on him before we go out. This is young Paddy. I've got him and his brother, and they're right around 8.5 months old, which in our program is when we really start formal hand training. Maybe a little bit earlier, 7 to 8, 9 months old, somewhere around there, we start our formal hand training. So he's nice and under control, so now we can go ahead and invite him out. So formal hand training, what do we mean by that? What we mean is we're actually going to apply rules and expectations on the dog. So they've been introduced to heel work, and all heel work is on this lead, teaching them that the correct position when we're walking is on our left side if you're a right-hand shooter, right side if you're a left-hand shooter. I'm a right-hand shooter, so I've taught him that he should be on my left side, and now what we're going to ask him is your right ear should be right by my left knee all the time when we're heeling. And so we're going to have our lead on us like this, and anytime he gets out of position, now we're actually going to apply some small corrections to teach him the proper place to walk. And as long as he is in this position that he is right now, I'm going to leave him alone. I'm not going to do anything with this lead. It's loose in my hand, which is telling him, I'm communicating to him, you're doing exactly what I want, and I don't have to apply any pressure. That's the communication with the dog. With these gun dogs, you can talk to them with body language, with your lead, lots of different ways. In formal hand training, most of your communication is with your lead and your voice at this stage. When he does it right, you can give him a little bit of praise. I don't overdo this here, because if you do, if you make a big fuss out of him, what you're going to do is spin him up. And we're not looking to spin him up. We want him nice and calm and quiet just like this, because what we're thinking about is that duck blind next year. This is what I want in the duck blind. Sit nice and quiet and still until birds are down and it's time to go out and work. When you're doing this kind of obedience work, it's important not to rush it. Think about yourself in a set of waders walking through knee-deep water at 4 o'clock in the morning, setting out decoys. How fast are you really walking? About like this. So when you're out working your dog, don't be in a big hurry, because it's not realistic. Always be thinking about, what am I going to be doing at 4 o'clock in the morning when I'm getting ready to go out and hunt, when I'm setting up my hunt. And you want to work at that pace. So that was heel work. Now we're going to look at some sits real quickly. Sit should be the first thing that you teach your young pup. And we teach them sit right from the get-go. As soon as I can get a lead on them, I'm going to teach them sit. And all it is here, ask him to sit, pull gently up on your lead, sit, good boy. And his rear should go down. He picked this up right from day one, so this was never an issue. Pretty much anymore, I can just stop and he's gonna sit on his own, which is good. But again, this is formal hand training, formal obedience work. So my expectation is every time I stop, he should stop and sit, regardless. Sit, good boy. Now we'll just add in our stop whistle, heel. Good lad, good. Everything's looking really good this morning so far, so now I'm just going to set up a little recall drill. Recall simply means come when I call you, or when I use my recall whistle. I'm going to do both. First I always call my dogs to them by their name, because if I've got a group of them out, I can't just say here or come, because then I'm going to have 5 or 6 coming to me. I want them to come individually, so I teach them to come on their name. Paddy, good lad, good boy, good boy, sit. That looked really good. So now I'm going to use my recall whistle and just make sure he understands that. Paddy. Good. That looked really good. Excellent. When you get into formal hand training, don't get into an area that's really complicated. What I wouldn't want to do is take him out into heavy cover or woods or something like that. You want to find an area that I call is bland. There's not a lot here to distract him so that I can keep his focus on me. I've got an area here on the property that's set up specifically for this kind of work. So until we get through all of this 100%, and I'm convinced that he understands what heel, sit, recall is regardless of distraction in my bland area before I will ever go out into cover. So we're going to work on this until we're both really confident that the obedience is good, and then we'll start introducing more complex ground. But this looks really good. So now we're going to take a look at introduction to steadiness. Again, your steadiness work, you're going to introduce it to your pups around 7, 8, 9 months old again. If you're getting through your formal hand training really well, all of your obedience work and all that's looking solid, then you can move on to steadiness work. With obedience though, if something isn't quite right, take a step back and correct that before you move on. Anything with gun dogs, if you run into a problem, stop, take a step backwards, work on that problem specifically, get it solved, and then you can go back into your training and go back into whatever exercise it was that you were going to work on when you had the problem. He is sitting very, very well. He's nice and calm and patient. He comes when he calls, so now it's time to introduce him to some steadiness work. And the way we do it is, again, the lead's going to be on the dog. And what this is just giving me a little bit of remote control on the dog. Typically when that lead is on, it gives me a little bit of control because this is physically on him. So what I'm going to do is just drop that lead, ask him to sit and stay. He should stay there. And for steadiness drills, I just pull out a bumper, and what I'm going to do is throw this behind me. And the reason for that is if he should break, I can either catch the dog or I can get this dummy before he gets it. What we do not want is for him to break and get this dummy, because then he just rewarded himself for breaking. Sit. So far that looks good. And what I'm going to do here is just move around this dog, okay, and introduce some movement. Sit. So he just got up there. Here's where the lead comes in handy. I can pick that up, bring him right back to where he got up. Sit. And I'm going to give him a little correction, which is just a tug on the lead. Sit. And we'll start over. Sit. Sit. You see how eager he is to get that bumper, but he's keeping his focus on me for the most part, which is what I want. That's good. I get in the habit of whenever I throw a bumper out, I make a noise, a bird noise. What that does is it gets the dog attention. So if I happen to be throwing a dummy and my dog's looking off the other direction, that noise will catch their attention. They'll look and they'll see my dummy going out. So I always get in the habit of just making a little bit of noise just to make sure that they're paying attention to what I'm doing. Good boy, good boy, good boy.